What's up, everyone? Online Prep Coach Ask here with PrepCoach.com, here to talk about parasympathetic beta oxidation. Talked about this probably 500,000 times with my best friend Andrew Triana on Beast Fitness Radio. Talked about it in massive videos, random videos here and there. But I realized, and I actually had a client reach out to me and wanted me to make a video because I don't think I've made a specific video just dedicated to parasympathetic beta oxidation, and I figured, why not? Especially for this client, Sophie. So I hope that this kind of makes things a little bit more clear and everyone can understand why it's so important to focus on it and why we as humans should be very good and proficient at parasympathetic beta oxidation anyway. So the client who asked for this is an extremely intelligent woman in her own right. In her field, she said she's never come across this term. And part of it is because we're picking and choosing and making up some things because these things aren't well defined in the literature. So first of all, we have to understand a couple of things. So let's begin with the basics. Let's start off with cardiac tissue. So cardiac tissue, the heart, without any neurological input, anything like that, it beats at 100 beats per minute. So we're going to define sympathetic activity as being about 90 to 100 threshold or higher. Anything lower than that is going to be parasympathetic. When we're talking about that, let's look at the sympathetic environment. So heart rate is on the higher side of things. Blood pressure is going to be higher. That means that oxygen saturation is going to be lower. That means the oxygen deprived environment is going to be on the higher end side of things. And overall, that is our arousal based state. Now, look at the parasympathetic side of things. This means that our breath rate is low. This means that our heart rate is low, blood pressure is low. We do not have arousal. We are very much relaxed, very parasympathetic. So when we look at these two things, we're looking at a state of arousal with the sympathetic side and a state of relaxation with the actual parasympathetic side. Now, if you can understand and just look at basic physiology, what happens whenever we work out? You can tell, look at anyone who's working out in the gym, they're sweaty, their face is flushed. You can see that, blood flow has changed. So hemodynamics have now changed. We see their chest picking up and down and up and down. So ventilation changes. So we can literally look at our daily examples and understand who's sympathetic, who's parasympathetic. Are you behind someone on the steps who is probably overweight and you're breathing like a mother, just, slipping electrons like crazy going up those stairs? That's the person who is sympathetic all day. When we are sympathetic, we are releasing all these catecholamines. So these blind glucocorticoids that essentially liberate. So the problem is that they're blind. So they go in, eyes are covered, and they liberate whatever in sight. They just start. They don't discriminate. They don't pick and choose. They just take whatever. So whenever we have this high state of arousal all the time, the problem is this glucocorticoid overexpression, which ends up just liberating. So if you can imagine that during the workout, that's completely fine. We're supposed to be sympathetic. We're supposed to have catecholamines, glucocorticoids, and all these things being released because that's what happens in an exercise physiology-based environment. But when you're sitting down, when you're relaxed, should your heart rate really be 90 beats per minute, 100 beats per minute? Should you really be sitting here breathing out of breath? Should you just be liberating everything in sight because your body's trying to keep up with what's going on? When that happens and you're super sympathetic all the time, that's when people have high blood glucose values. Why is that? Because, glucocorticoids are liberating glucose into the bloodstream. Where are they getting that glucose from? They're getting it from intramuscular glycogen. So what's the last thing we want to do as athletes or just healthy people in general? The last thing we want to do is pull glucose from intramuscular glycogen stores. So this is where the conversation of parasympathetic beta oxidation comes in. What do we want? We want to be relaxed, resting creatures the majority of the day. No matter who you are, you're training for what? 2, 3 tops, let's say 4 hours per day. That means the other 20 hours of the day need to be relaxed. The other 20 hours of the day shouldn't have a ton of stimulation. The other 20 hours of the day shouldn't be tons of arousal. We see this all the time. And we see this baseline dysfunction happening for why people get all these health disorders or for why people stop losing body fat during prep because they're taking stimulants every hour, hoping to liberate more fat into the bloodstream. The problem is they're staying in a sympathetic state. We also have to remember that beta oxidation can happen in parasympathetic and sympathetic environments. So you can be aroused and losing body fat, or non-aroused, relaxed and losing body fat. Not only that, but beta oxidation does not require a caloric deficit to actually be fueled. Look at every bodily process and what happens. We're constantly turning over nutrients. By understanding what happens at a biochemical level, you understand, anabolism doesn't require a surplus to happen, and beta oxidation doesn't require a deficit. we're looking at specific hours of the day. We can pick and choose when we're trying to liberate free fatty acids. We can pick and choose whenever we're trying to focus on driving muscle damage, driving up hypoxic events and getting very sympathetic. We can pick and choose what we want to do. Basically, I call it on like a 3-hour diet on a couple hour window. So you're eating, you are resting, you are training, you are doing whatever for what you just did, what you're doing now, what you're about to do. So with all this in mind, we continue down this beta oxidative parasympathetic branch that we'll call it. And we can understand now, just listening to what we just heard, that what we should be doing is having a low state of arousal the majority of the day, except whenever we're training or doing stuff like that. We should have a low blood pressure, a lower blood glucose level, a lower everything in a more relaxed environment throughout the day, so that guess where we're pulling all of our energy from? We're liberating them from adipocytes. So we take our adipocytes, we are pulling free fatty acids out of them, putting them into the bloodstream to thereby fuel our process. This is where my anabolic tool concept comes in, where no matter what you do, everyone talks about your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Well, there's a toll to pay for everything. There's a toll it takes for me to be holding this camera up. There's a toll it takes for me to write training programs. Neurologically, we have a lot of expenditure going on there. There's a toll it takes to, yell at the dog outside who's taking a crap where you didn't want it. Or there's a toll for stubbing your toe. There's a toll for building muscle. There's a toll for losing body fat. So if we look at that anabolic toll concept, it's literally looking and understanding, okay, if we're trying to build this amount of muscle tissue, it's going to require this amount of energy. Well, if we're not getting all that energy from our food, where else can we also get energy from? We can obviously look at our stores, look at our banks, our fat cells, our adipocytes. Those are just stored energy. So look at it from that side of things, and we now see, okay, we can pay this toll of anabolism with stored energy, aka using parasympathetic beta oxidation to liberate free fatty acids and pay the toll into the bloodstream to ultimately be paid off and oxidized by mitochondria. So how do you master parasympathetic beta oxidation? And it's kind of funny because if you look at the best athletes, the majority of them, they're pretty low-key, calm people. In the fitness, in the bodybuilding industry, a lot of the top pros, they sit around all day. They are beasts in the gym, but then their job for the rest of the day is to relax. So they may not know that they're doing this, but this is one of the reasons, on top of their work ethic, their genetics, and so many other things, but this is one of the reasons why they're so successful, because they will train like animals, they will eat their meals, and they'll relax. They'll play video games. They will masturbate. They will take naps. They will do whatever is relaxing. And actually, masturbation, sex is a sympathetic activity, but you get what I'm trying to say. I'm being a little facetious here. By having that low state of arousal, that low heart rate, we can pick and choose where we're pulling our energy from. So if we can apply this to us as people, it's literally as simple as thinking about being aroused when we need to be aroused and being relaxed when we need to be relaxed. If you're bad at that, like most of America, usually we're looking at dropping out stimulatory products. This doesn't mean nootropics. Nootropics are not stimulants. We're looking at two different things. Nootropics are the brain ROS, antioxidant side of things management, whereas stimulants are things like your caffeines, your amphetamines, things like that. We want to usually limit those and keep those to sympathetic periods. So usually just around the workout, hopefully earlier in the day if we're going to be using them. We're looking at keeping our heart rate and everything low during those other periods. So I go on and on about being positive. It's not just to be a better person. It's so that you can literally liberate free fatty acids and not liberate intramuscular glycogen. If you're the person who's always losing their temper, heart rate's going up, blood pressure's going up, guess what you're doing? You're not using the right fuel. And that has its place and purpose and time, but all day, every day, day in, day out, we should be more positive, happy, low-key. Andy, my best friend, likes to use the term hippie creatures, but it's so true. We should be hippies when we're not training. This is where the adaptogen category, this is where ashwagandha and all the things to lower your ability will actually improve your ability to tolerate and manage stress throughout the day and adapt really comes in. So the meditation is a big thing, and people may think it sounds stupid or weird, but if someone kind of talks down on meditation and deep belly breathing, then they're kind of saying that parasympathetic and sympathetic activity aren't a real thing, and then you're just arguing baseline biology, and you should just be outside licking rocks, because that's not even a conversation we should be having. Deep belly breathing, let's hope I'm not getting retarded here, and meditation, and just learning how to breathe are so massive. I'm sure you can hear my dogs barking in the background. They interrupt everything, but I love them. So we have potentially using supplements that are very parasympathetic. Look at the drugs that we take, insulin, growth hormone. Those are more on the parasympathetic side of things. The androgenic side of things are also more so on the sympathetic side of things. So you can look at the over-the-counter supplements you're taking. You can look at doing parasympathetic beta oxidative walks outside where your actual heart rate will lower a little bit and you will get into a very state of relaxation that is very, I don't want to say surreal, but if you can get into a nice, deep meditative walk outside, be in nature, be exposed to the sunlight, get the photonic stage from the sun, you can get a lot of cool things going on. You can look at managing your day to have more stress truncated in the beginning of the day and less stress towards the end of the day. You can have nighttime and morning habits and routines to make sure that from a circadian aspect, you're ticking all of your boxes because that all plays into proper parasympathetic and sympathetic activity. You can do a whole bunch of things, but I think we're going to end it there because the parasympathetic beta oxidative conversation can continually keep going on and on. And this is kind of the tool that everyone should be utilizing because it's Le Chatelier's principle. And again, best friend Andy always quotes that, but it's literally doing the smallest things with the biggest return on your investment. So taking a walk outside, getting 10 minutes of sun exposure, is that really that hard? Is it really that hard to take 5 minutes and just close your eyes, clear your mind, and just breathe and lower your heart rate? You can look at your heart rate. You can measure it beforehand. You can see a 10 to 20 point drop with a proper deep belly breathing session of, again, a couple minutes. That's why people, actually meditate post-workout to bring down your heart rate, to bring down your blood pressure, and to transition the sympathetic workout to the parasympathetic relaxation. Because remember, post-workout, we don't start recovering just because you ended the workout. We start recovering whenever ventilation comes down, heart rate comes down, oxygen saturation goes up. We started clearing acetyl groups. We start restoring glycogen homeostasis. All these things play a part. So I'm going to end the conversation there for parasympathetic beta oxidation, but most people that are successful are doing this already. They just don't realize it. Hope you guys learned something. Have a great day.